This is the weekly review for the week of October 10th to the 14th, as well as this week's Sunday preparation. So, coming into this week, I was anticipating a bearish week, and this is the start of the week on Monday, and I was um, anticipating that price was going to trade up into this daily fair value gap and form the high of the week and then roll over. But in reality, this week was not really that great. We just got a lot of consolidation, and it wasn't really too clear. And right now, we are pretty much in the middle of the trading range on the daily at this equilibrium right here from this low to this high. Um, so right now, it's pretty much low probability going forward, at least into the beginning of this week. I'm going to want to wait for some more price action to play out. So going back to Monday, Monday was just a bank holiday, so we pretty much just consolidated, and I didn't do anything on Monday. Um, Coming into Tuesday, I was looking for the high of the week to be potentially set. And I was looking at the Monday range, and in early London, we took out the Monday low and then traded up. But there really wasn't any bullish setup. And then in New York session, we had a SMT with previous day's high on GU, and GU had a pair of equal highs that it rated. And then we had a break in market structure. But this type of price action was the same price action that I noted in my journal last week about the lack of displacement. Um, right, there's a small little fair value gap here and a fair value gap here, but this isn't the clean and clear displacement that we wanted. And this reminded me of the S&P example I printed out last week, and I was looking at that printout while I was watching this live, and I said, I really don't want to short this. This doesn't look like true displacement. And sure enough, pretty much at the end of London close, and then after London close session, we just rocketed up here and took the buy side liquidity that was engineered, despite having a SMT with previous day's high here. So that was nice to see that I kind of caught onto this, and I didn't fall for shorting this. But at the same time, there was no long setup here. We took the interim session low with SMT, but there was no YouTube model here to go long on. So then coming into Wednesday, I saw that we took previous day's high here on this move. And this was also into a daily fair value gap that formed. So this was the fair value gap I was looking at prior to the week starting. But then after Monday's trading, we formed this new fair value gap. Right here. And I saw price obviously rate it, and this was outside of a session, but we took liquidity, dipped into that fair value gap, and then had this nice displacement. So my eyes were on this coming into the Wednesday session, and potentially having some type of setup in here in premium of the displacement range. And Wednesday was FOMC in the PM session. So we really just ended up consolidating the whole day. This is nothing to trade here. This is just chop back and forth and engineer trend line liquidity. The only setup that happened was a raid off of previous day's low that we had SMT with, and then we had this clear displacement up, and then came back down into the fair value gap in discount, and then took a portion of this trend line liquidity. Now, obviously, this was after London close session, but because we have FOMC, the session extends past London close to 2 p.m., 2:30 p.m. that FOMC occurs right here. So that was really the only setup. And then coming into Thursday, I really wasn't too sure what was going on. But looking at this price action over the weekend, I can kind of see a setup here if we base it off of this raid, anticipating that Tuesday is the high of the week with this displacement down and then premium from that high to this low. And then we had this SMT here, went back up into the breaker and fully closed in this imbalance here on price, while taking previous day high liquidity and then this short-term liquidity. Now, the only thing is that there was no actual low time frame setup here. This was the CPI numbers and it just dumped down. But I did note, and I printed out a new chart for Thursday, noting this higher time frame mentorship setup coming up here into this M15 breaker and closing in this imbalance, which I missed when I was doing my review for Thursday. And then that came down and took these relative equal lows as well as these relative equal lows here. And then on the M5, there was a short-term long opportunity coming up into this low resistance liquidity run. Price literally just completely nuked down. If you were watching this live, it was just insane, this reaction on especially on a 1 minute chart. So after this SMT with previous day's low and then our shift in market structure here and this nice displacement candle up, I was looking at a setup, this same setup on S&P, but here on EU we did get the long, and this is based on the M3 range. So this is a low on the M3 time frame, or the 3 minute I should say, and then this is just a multiple time frame inefficiency. So from the 5 minute down to the 1 minute, there's a fair value gap here. So this was a nice long opportunity that I noted in my journal, basing it off of targeting the fill-in of this low resistance liquidity run. But to be honest with you, I didn't expect it to run all the way up past the CPI high, because in the back of my mind I had the idea that Tuesday was going to be here the high of the week, but that didn't end up playing out. So this kind of caught me off guard. And then coming into Friday, I was again more so watching S&P because I had my eyes on this multiple time frame inefficiency from CPI to be filled in. But here in New York, EU already pretty much filled it in, where S&P didn't. And also S&P made the high of the week on Friday. So that was a lot of extra confluence for like a power 3 short. but entries on S&P got swerved. Or on EU, we had a pretty nice entry here. After we took London high session with SMT, came down, broke market structure here, and importantly, there was no SMT with these raids of the lows. So this was the interim session low. We had a raid here, but there was no SMT. And then this was the New York session low, had a raid here, but there was no SMT. So even though we had a bullish setup, breaking market structure here, and then we have this bullish fair value gap here in discount, if you were to use this range, right? But the fact that we took out a session high and the bearish raid was the one that had the SMT. That's why I was more so focused on the short. So I noted that in my journal, how the lack of SMT on the bullish raids is why this bearish setup ended up playing out, despite having a bullish YouTube model here, right? So this is a bullish YouTube model and a bearish YouTube model. So that was nice to see, and price ended up taking out that 1.3R a little bit after the end of London close session. But overall, this was a pretty sloppy week because we were stuck in pretty much consolidation, all of this. So yeah, I didn't really like it. Going forward, as I said, I still want to wait for more price action because we're in right at the equilibrium. I'm still leaning bearish that price wants to take out these lows because the dollar index still is looking very bullish, respecting this weekly order block and weekly fair value gap. So I think it wants to take out these highs from September, and that would be previous month's high. So same thing for Euro wants to take out previous month's low, I feel, but I just want to wait for more price action on Monday and see what buy side liquidity we raid because we do have this SMT here on the high time frame with GU. GU took out Thursday and Friday's high from 1 week ago. So GU was very, very strong compared to EU this week, and we took out that Thursday, Friday high. So we have that SMT there. But we also were coming up off of this daily fair value gap. So really what I'm just going to be waiting for coming into next week is if we have some type of buy side raid, potentially of these equal highs. But I'm also going to be looking at GU because we have CPI news on Wednesday, where EU doesn't have any high impact news. And I think there's only like 1 or 2 USD high impact news this week. So the GU CPI numbers are probably going to be the biggest mover of this upcoming week, which is why I'm also going to keep an eye on GU and see what happens. But yeah, so far I am still going to be expecting a bearish week unless some other BS like this happens. But yeah, just watch for some buy side liquidity to be rated, and then I'm just going to watch for the YouTube model to be formed around here. So yeah, we'll see what happens.